Hi, I'm Clarise Nixon.
And I'm Paul Nixon. We are college educators, and this is College Hacks.
Today we're talking about how to be successful in an online course.
Tip number 1, develop self-discipline. You want to be consistent in creating manageable habits for your online work. One of the biggest differences between face-to-face school and online school is with face-to-face school, your teacher, your professor has a lot to do with how things are organized. For example, your professor is responsible for making sure the space is appropriate for your learning. With online school, you lose the expertise of the professor, and now it's up to you. It's up to you to create appropriate space. So part of creating self-discipline is making sure your space is appropriate for learning.
So this might mean being in a quiet place. This might mean having a clean area. This might mean having a workable space where you can have whatever you need. Your textbook, your laptop, your, notebook. Have a desk big enough to actually fit that kind of stuff so that when you're in class, you feel like you're actually in class.
Use the same space over and over again. So if you have a room in your house or a section in your room that you can call that the classroom, right? Call it the classroom area, then that's gonna help you to just kind of organize that space. And you know that space is reserved for that activity. You don't do anything else over there. You don't eat over there, you don't watch TV over there, you're not gonna play video games. That's your learning space. That will help you to organize your space.
Essentially what that does too is it tricks your brain into getting ready for school when you go into that space. So if your brain knows that this area is for class, just physically being in that area, your brain is gonna think, okay, it's time to think, it's time to learn, and that'll jumpstart your learning process.
The second part of developing self-discipline is managing your time. Now this is hugely important. One of the big components that you lose with online class is predetermined times for your class.
Right.
And you wouldn't, for example, go to work between your 9 o'clock class and your 11 o'clock class. You know, okay, this is my block of classes, I'm gonna go to work after this, right? But with online classes, what we see sometimes is students don't see any classes on their schedule, so then they say to their boss, you know, I'm free to work, and then now you're working 9 to 4.
Right.
You know, but the problem is, your classes are gonna take time,
right.
So you have to set aside your own time to make sure you're going to class.
So schedule your online class as if it's a scheduled class, but you're in charge of actually making that schedule, which is good because you have other things going on in your life, but be intentional about choosing a consistent time throughout the week where you work on your online courses.
And with that in mind, you also want to make sure you return to the online platform multiple times during the week. Rather than breaking off 6 hours on Tuesday to do math work, do 2 hours each. 3 days or something like that, right? Do smaller chunks.
Particularly since some online courses, really a lot of online courses have due dates throughout the week.
Yeah.
As opposed to having everything due one particular day of the week. So because you have due dates throughout the week, that means you should be on the online platform several times throughout the week to break it all up into smaller chunks.
Yeah, so, and actually the classes I teach online usually do have one due date at the end of the week. Usually my due date is the last day of the week. But that assignment is a culmination of activities. Right. So you still need to be logging in multiple times to do little pieces of the assignment so that by the time you get to the end of the week, you will have built the skill.
Because you're building a skill and not just doing a bunch of tasks, another tip for being successful in an online course is to adjust your expectations. An online course is not the same as a face-to-face classroom setting. In multiple ways, it's not the same. To think about this as a class as opposed to just a string of a bunch of assignments. There are multiple assignments in an online class, but it's not just those assignments. It is a class, just in a different kind of setting.
Keep in mind also that online school is usually more work for everyone, not just for the student, but also for the professor.
Right.
So from our perspective, we have multiple ways of assessing student learning, right? One of the ways that we assess student learning, probably the most frequent way that we assess student learning, is just kind of participation in the activities of the day, right? So it's not necessarily an assignment that you'll turn in, and we'll have an idea of the level to which you've understood what's happening that day.
Right.
You lose that online, so we replace it with assignments.
Right.
So online there are often more written assignments because we don't have the ability to assess you any other way.
Right.
So it's more work.
And I would say if you're doing an online course, set aside more time for that because there is more work to do. So if you're going to a face-to-face class that's 50 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes, if that same class transforms into an online class, I would allot more time than 50 minutes or than an hour and 15 minutes because there are more things for you to do as a student.
The other thing that takes more time online is just actually grasping the material.
Right.
So just think about it this way. In class, your professor is standing there in front of you and you can interact with that person, and that person has years of experience. That person has multiple degrees in the thing they're teaching you, hopefully, right? So that person has a level of knowledge and understanding. That person has prepared before coming to class and they have anticipated your questions.
Right.
So they know the answers off the top of their head. You are not that person. You're not the professor. You're still learning this stuff. You're still the student. So you don't have access to that wealth of knowledge in the same way.
Which means then you're doing a lot more independent learning in an online class. So because it's mostly your own brain trying to learn the things that you have to learn, it's going to take you more time to learn those things. Now you do still have access to the professor, but it is different. It's not the same as we're standing here right now. I can ask you a question right now about the New York Yankees that I don't know, and he'll be able to answer me in real time.
I will be able to answer.
And I know it now. So because it's an online class, it's just going to take more time. So just keep that in mind. This is going to take more time, and also your learning is going to be more you and less the professor.
Right. Which, in our opinion, that's actually to your benefit.
Yes.
Because like we said before, the goal of your education is for you to become educated, right? You're trying to learn a skill, you're trying to build knowledge and expertise. And the best way to do that is actually doing the work, right? So you learn better through activity than you do through receiving information.
Right.
So online school is actually, in many ways, it's actually a better way to actually learn something. But again, it is more work, it does take more time.